All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this regularly scheduled City Council meeting to order. First, we're going to have the invocation by Pastor Grant Foster, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. First, Lord, we thank you for the wonderful place that we get to call home. And we thank you, Lord, that we get to wake up every morning to this beautiful paradise. Now, Lord, we ask that you would give our council wisdom and understanding to be able to govern. We pray that you bless this meeting tonight. And Lord, we just give you all the praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nunn.
Here.
Councilmember Dixon.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd. Councilmember Dodd. Thank you. And Councilmember McPartland.
Here.
Thank you.
Ed's still trying to get his ears on. Hang on, he's got a lot of squealing I can't deal with over there.
Are you getting some feedback?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, since I'm deaf, I can't hear you. All right. Better.
Still squealing.
Something.
Still squealing or whining.
It might not be that, though.
Get another one of these, Barbara.
Yeah, it's doing it right now, so it's that.
It stopped?
No, it's still doing it, so it's that thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right, sorry for the interruption.
Oh,
No, no
not
problem.
at all.
Just let me know when you can hear me.
Thank you.
Now I can hear you, Fred. Oh, wait a minute, you're not talking
All right.
All right, Mr. Dodd is ready now, so do we have any agenda modifications?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move on to our next section here. Before we move to Ms. Swan, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our new city attorney to everyone, Jennifer Cockcroft. This is her first meeting as the City of Sebastian city attorney. Welcome.
Welcome. There's no clapping. Just kidding.
Stop it. All right, next, Ms. Swan, Leslie, coming forward.
Mayor Jones and council members. I'm Leslie Swan, the Indian River County Supervisor of Elections, and thank you for affording me this opportunity to come speak with you tonight. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you all so much. You all allow us to use this beautiful facility as one of our early voting sites, so I want to thank you so much. Tonight I'm here with just a quick public service announcement for the residents of the city of Sebastian. Due to legislation that was passed in 2021 in Senate Bill 90, voters are now required to renew their vote-by-mail ballot request on a more frequent basis. All mail ballots in the state of Florida, the requests expired on December 31st of 2022. A request for a mail ballot has historically been valid for 2 general election cycles, which is 4 years. Now a voter has to request their mail ballot every general election cycle. At this time, a request, if you put it in now, it will be good through all elections through 2024. You can request a mail ballot for one single election or all elections through the end of 2024. The easiest way to request your ballot is online at our website at voteindianriver.gov, or it's easy. You can just pick up the phone and call our office at 226-4700. Ballots are requested by the voter or a voter's designated immediate family member or a voter's legal guardian. And to ensure the security of your vote-by-mail ballot, when you request the ballot, you have to provide either your Florida driver's license number, your Florida ID card number, or the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. And then we can confirm this information in your voter record to make sure it's actually you requesting the ballot. The ballots go out 40 days before the election. And if a voter is not going to be at their local residence, we can send the ballot anywhere in the world, but that request has to be in writing to our office. And during the most recent general election, which was the gubernatorial election in 2022, we had 44,000 requests on file. As of January 1st this year, that number went back to 0. So it's really important. We're playing catch up at the elections office. And what we did was any of those 44,000 voters that had an email address or a phone number, we've already reached out to them. We've gotten about 10,000 back on the list, but there's still 34,000. And we don't want those people to think that, hey, they're going to be getting a ballot and expect it, and then wait till the last minute to try to request it, and then it will be too late for us to mail it to them. So there's a big election coming up. We have municipal elections. The city of Sebastian has one on November 7th. You have 3 council seats that are up for election. So I'm just encouraging the voters, if they want to vote by mail in the city election on November 7th, or any of the 3 elections next year. We have a presidential preference primary election, which will be held on March 19th, a primary election on August 20th, or the presidential election on November 5th. Please contact our office as soon as possible. So I want to thank you again for affording me this opportunity to make this announcement.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to have a proclamation, Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup Week. Felicia, you can come stand forward. I'm going to read it from here, but if you want to come up, that's fine. Oh, we have someone else here too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. So this proclamation is Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup Week, July the 15th through July 23rd, 2023. Whereas the Marine Industries Association of the Treasure Coast and the Florida Inland Navigation District are deeply concerned with keeping the Treasure Coast waterways clean for all to enjoy. Whereas since the beginning, over 99.25 tons of trash have been collected from approximately 125 miles of waterways. And whereas the 16th Annual Treasure Coast Waterways Cleanup will be held on Saturday, July 22nd, 2023, from 8 a.m. to 12:30, and that will be at Main Street Boat Ramp. Whereas this event will attract over 1,200 volunteers as well as numerous waterfront homeowner associations who will participate in cleaning the waterways of Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River counties. There will be 25 designated sites throughout the 3 counties that will serve as a registration and disposal sites for the volunteers to work out of. There will also be virtual cleanup that allows volunteers to clean up on their own and report their progress online. Now, therefore, I, Fred Jones, Mayor of the City of Sebastian, do hereby proclaim the week of July 15th through the 23rd, 2023, as Treasure Coast Waterway Cleanup Week in the City of Sebastian, Florida, and encourage all citizens to participate in this event. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of this great City of Sebastian to be affixed this 12th day of July, 2023.
Appreciate it. Did you want to say something?
You can go right ahead.
Okay. I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Marine Industries Association of the Treasure Coast. My name is Justin Beard. I'm the new executive director. I live in Vero Beach, but I'm from Indian River County. I'm a native. I've been recreating on the island and here in the river my entire life, boating, surfing at Spanish House, surfing at Sebastian Inlet. Being part of the marine industries and being a leader in the community has been something I take with great honor, and I'm happy to be part of this event, and I'm happy to get other volunteers involved. We just ask that folks, if they have time next week, to come and to volunteer in the morning and clean up their favorite part of the waterway. You can come to one of the designated sites, or you can participate the entire week virtually. You just have to go to tcwaterwaycleanup.com, register to volunteer, and pick the site that you want to be at. You get a free T-shirt, you get some snacks, you get to hang out with folks who really care about the community, and you can do your part to just help make this place better for all of us, because it really is a special place to live. So,
Yeah, we'll
thank
have
you.
some orange juice and water as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Sure. Just want to put out there that the Natural Resources Board, like Mayor Jones said, will be at the Main Street Boat Ramp on the 22nd, so we'd love it if you guys would come out and join us. But if you can't, of course, there's all those other sites, and I'd like to throw out there that there's the Peck Lake Reef Dive Cleanup, so if anybody's interested in diving for some trash, please go to the Waterway Cleanup website, tcwaterwaycleanup.com, and check out the information for that, so you can be in the loop about all the safety details for the dive version.
Thank you. Here we go. I'm going to give this to
Yeah.
Goldie together. There you go. You see Felicia's face? We don't want her blocked out. You got it?
Excellent. Oh, one more?
Yeah, sure.
Here we go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So much. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you again. Thank you so much for that. While we're under announcements, I received a letter from the Lions Club. It says to Sebastian City Council members, on behalf of the citizens of Sebastian and the surrounding area, the Sebastian Lions Club, along with the Sebastian Masonic Lodge, wish to thank you all and the employees of the city for allowing us to make the 4th of July Festival the greatest event yet. The Department of Leisure Services did an excellent job with all their preparations and activities during and after the event. All departments, from the police to the city hall, deserve much praise. Sebastian makes the surrounding towns and villages jealous. Thank you all. Event Coordinator Norm Meyer. All right, the next thing we have on our agenda is the public input. Anyone wish to speak on anything that's not on the current agenda, please come forward.
I expected more people to stand up. My name's Bob Bruner. I live at 861 Montrose Avenue, and I'm here to talk about the stone crop drainage problem. I was here a few years ago, and I talked to the city council about it, and I'm delighted to see that things are moving in the right direction to correct the erosion problem on the drainage ditch behind my house. I built my house 8 years ago as a homeowner builder, and when I built it, I put my fence 3 feet on my property line, inside my property line, and since then, the drain has gotten, the ditch has gotten larger, and the sand is eroding out. My fence is about ready to fall in. So this project is wonderful, and I'm really glad to see that it's gone. But I was a little bit surprised when on May the 30th, everybody up and down Montrose and Majestic got a letter, and they said that the contractors were coming in. We had to clear everything out of the 30-foot easement and make sure that we didn't have any plants or trees or anything in the way of the contractor. And they were there for a couple days, and now they're not there. And I understand that there was a little problem with the FEMA grant that was appropriated several years ago, and now, you know how the price of everything goes up. Now it's going to be more expensive than they thought it was going to be. So I know that they're asking for an extension on the grant, and that they've approached FEMA. But since I built my house as a homeowner builder, I'm aware of all the building permit fees and all the impact fees. And I don't need to tell you how many houses are being built in Sebastian. And I didn't know if this was something that maybe if FEMA can't come up with the money that they said, or the money that the FEMA has appropriated isn't going to cover the project, if this would be possible that the city of Sebastian could come up, rather than wait and lose the grant. I was just wanting to make sure that the project continued and the project finished. And I was expressing my concern as a homeowner builder on the Stonecrop project.
All right, thank you, sir. Yeah, we'll have Mr. Benton get with you if you will make sure you have his number and contact him. He will share that information with you.
I've been a little bit aggressive about this, Mr. Mayor. I've already talked to him a couple of times. And one other thing that would be nice from the city of Sebastian is we got the letter, the homeowners all got the letter of the project that was going to open and the trees and everything we needed, our fences we need to get out of the way. I walk my dog up and down Montrose Avenue and Majestic all the time, and everybody's wondering, what are they doing? Why did they stop? When are they going to start back up? And I think just a brief note from the city saying the project is temporarily being reevaluated, and it's going to happen, but it's going to take a little longer than we expected. Just to let the homeowners along the road aware of the delay.
Yeah, all right. Mr. Benton, do you have anything to share on that, about how long the delay is and what's happening with that?
He is correct in that we are awaiting FEMA to review our request for an extension for the funding on this project. So we are on a timeline just waiting on FEMA at this point.
Right.
We don't have an estimated timeline. I'd hate to give any dates here and it be incorrect, to be honest.
Well, that's fine. Just know that we are still working on it, and that federal government money is very difficult sometimes to get in when you want it, when they say it was going to come in, so.
As a union carpenter, I've worked on power plants and hospitals and a lot of big construction projects, and I understand the delay in the funding, and you don't know the exact date, but just letting the homeowners on this along Stonecrop know that it's still going to happen, and we're working on it.
All right, so we can probably send out letters just like before and let them know that it's still ongoing, that it will be completed.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much.
City Council, for your time.
Can I ask the city manager a question?
Who?
Can I ask the city manager a question?
Oh, yeah.
Related? Mr. Benton, is the reason that the construction is stopped because of the FEMA grant?
So we got to a point to where the cost was going to exceed funds that we had within the city. So we are dependent on the grant funding to continue the project. And if we continue it without the approval from FEMA, then we take the chance of not, even if we get approval later down the road, not being reimbursed if we don't follow their process. So we made the determination to stop the project until we received a response on the extension from FEMA.
Just for information purposes, how much is that grant that we're waiting on this part of the project?
1.2 million.
So it's a significant amount of money.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on anything? Do we have anyone with their hands raised on Zoom?
No one has raised their hands.
All right, moving on to the next item is the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, I'd like to pull item D just for a minor discussion. Other than that, I have no others.
Mr. Mayor, make the motion to approve consent agenda items 8A, B, C, and E.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll on that.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
And Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, on item D, it's nothing really major. It's just when I crunched some numbers on that, I looked at it's not a lot of numbers, difference. The difference I see, Mr. Benton, is $232 difference that's not listed where that's coming from. And can you tell us what the source is? We know the source of the other ones, but what's the source of the extra money?
Yes, sir. So the additional $232 required for the purchase of the 2 mowers will come out of the airport fund that's in their existing current fiscal year 23 budget.
Okay. All right, I just need to know where that was coming from because it wasn't listed there, so. All right, I make a motion that we approve item D.
Second. I'd like to make the information for people listening that we actually were able to cover the $18,000 of this with a piece of surplus equipment that we were able to auction off. And most of that money would have went to the state unless we reuse it. So with us actually spending this money back on equipment for the airport, it actually keeps that $18,000 here in Sebastian instead of going to the state. So good job on that.
All right, so we have a motion and second. Do we have any other discussion on this? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next item is committee reports or appointments. Anyone have a committee report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just have some sad news from the Indian River Veterans Council. Martin Ziegert, who was a long time, he was a colonel in the United States Air Force, and he actually brought the Indian River County Veterans Council. It is a model there is no other Veterans Council like it within the state of Florida, quite possibly the entire nation. They created the store within the mall that helped pay for a lot of it. He started programs about veterans helping veterans, and also getting a new bus that took veterans from Indian River County down to the Palm Beach VA. They actually had 2 buses, and he passed away July 2nd, and they'll be having a memorial for him July 29th at 9 a.m. at Memorial Island down in Vero Beach. And then one of his favorite places was the Walking Tree Brewery, and they're going to have an event over there from 4 to 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, Marty was a really good guy. I had a lot of opportunities to work with him here in the city, specifically with veterans events, so it was really sad to see him go.
And he also brought the Blue Angels to Vero Beach, and they've been coming every other year, and they raise money that supports, I don't know, probably 20, 25 nonprofits throughout the county, taking care of all kinds for children, for vulnerable adults, and everything. So he'll be missed.
All right, thank you so much for that. Any other reports? Mr. Dodd?
Yeah, this is not really a committee report, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands that Councilmember McPartlin volunteered to provide breakfast when we meet with the county commission in our joint session, and
Good.
so we're very happy that he's going to provide breakfast for that.
I talked to Brian. Brian said it was okay.
Okay, all right.
Are you cooking?
Oh, I thought you were providing breakfast.
No.
I thought he was
You want me to
cooking.
cook? I'll cook. Just get the stuff. You may not be happy, but
Mr. Mayor, I did have one other thing to mention. And
Yes, sir.
I'm sure most people know it, but within the past couple of weeks, the city lost a very good member of the community as well. Sebastian attorney Steve Lulich passed away, and his funeral was this past weekend. And he's very involved in the chamber and other parts of the city, and it's just a sad thing for Sebastian. So I just wanted to mention in case anybody was not aware.
Yeah, my wife and I attended that service, so yeah, Stephen was a friend of ours, so we attended the service. It was definitely sad to see Stephen go. It seems like we're hearing a lot of deaths recently, but all right, I don't want to beleaguer that anymore. So we don't have any public hearings or unfinished business. We're going to move on to new business, and our first item is 12A. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number R23-15, a resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, authorizing the city manager to execute an FAA Airport Improvement Program AIP grant for funding the cost of runway 05-23 asphalt rehabilitation at the Sebastian Municipal Airport, providing for conflict, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Sabo, you have anything to present, or are you just going to be here for questions if we have any? Okay. Council, is there any
Mr. Mayor,
questions?
if I may, I just
Yeah.
have one point of clarification. Under the expenditure of funds, if you will notice, just because back on June 14th, we requested you all to approve accepting the FDOT grant, which is the 5% match for $158,546. On this agenda transmittal, you'll see that amount has increased to $170,382.28. The reason for that is at the time we had to accept the FDOT grant, we were on a tight timeline with them to accept it. And at that time, our anticipated budget was $3,170,910. Once we opened the bids, got the bid documents back, the budget then became $3,407,645.65, which increases their 5% portion. Mr. Sabo's done a great job in communicating with FDOT on this, and he has gotten a verbal commitment that they will increase their funding to allocate to this amount. However, they wouldn't provide it in writing and get it back to us until we now approve the FAA grant and approve the project, and then we can go back to them and get it in writing for the additional funding. So if they don't provide that additional roughly $12,000, that would then be covered by the city within the airport fund for that additional $12,000. But we do have a verbal agreement from them. I just wanted to clarify that difference in case you all had any questions on that.
Okay. Any questions, council? No. Hearing none? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm.
Oh, hang on, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Scott Baker, City of Sebastian. Pilot, aircraft owner, and as you all know, I'm familiar with the airport. So I speak in favor of approval for this agenda item. The rehab of runway 0523 is about a year and a half, 2 years overdue. The asphalt has deteriorated greatly, even though the PCI is rated fair. In some areas, it's really poor. In addition to that, the runway has a little dip in it that when aircraft get almost to flying speed, they find themselves going through an undulation, which is not very safe. So this rehab will take care of that. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Jeff Sabo. You know, it takes a lot of work to coordinate this, and I think he's done a great job. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public? Do we have anyone with their hands raised on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
All right, move on. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of resolution number R-23-15.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No. Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, next item is item 12B, award Ranger Construction Industries to be licensed contractor for selected purposes. Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this contract is to be awarded to Ranger Construction to complete the construction or the rehabilitation of runway 05-23. I will make a note in here that on the agenda transmittal, the city attorney, she was just recently getting started last week, and we threw this in front of her. So it took her a little bit of time to review it and get familiar with it. The agreement was included in the bid documents. So in discussion with the attorney, she has agreed to go forward. The contract is acceptable as it sits now, so it's no longer just pending. Am I correct with that? I just don't want to overspeak.
Yeah, no, that is correct. I was going to step in if you didn't. We will be sending this forward, being that it was included in the bid documents.
Okay.
So we just ask that you all approve the selection of Ranger to do this rehabilitation project.
All right, very good. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Anyone on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
Council, do you have any questions or motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to award approval of this bid to Ranger Constructions.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, move on to item C. Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a continuing services agreement with Infrastructure Consulting and Engineering Incorporated, also known as ICE. They do a lot of our engineering services and consulting work for the airport. The funding for this was included in the previous approval that you all provided for the FAA grant, the FDOT grant. So this is in conjunction with that amount. It's not additional, so it all falls underneath the $3.4 million project. And so they will handle the construction, inspections, certifications, and all that as we go through this process with the grant money. ICE will oversee all of that for the city.
All right, thank you. Council, you have any questions of the city manager? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council. ICE has been a friend of the city and a friend of the airport for years and years. They've done an incredible job of looking after our best interest, and I think that they'll do a good job with the construction, engineering, and inspection on this project.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Anyone with their hands raised on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
All right, council, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I heard you correctly, this $287,000 is part of the $3 million. It's not in addition to.
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion approval of a CSA-10 work services agreement with Infrastructure Consulting and Engineering.
Second?
Second.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Second. All right, any other discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, move on to item D. Item D, Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So around early April, the city had selected Wright Construction for the city to enter into negotiations to develop a guaranteed maximum price for the construction of, or the design build for 4 airport hangars. Mr. Sabo has worked diligently with Wright Construction and gone back and forth to try to determine a GMP. At the end of the day, it was determined that they were not going to be able to come close to our estimated budget, or the budget that we had in place. So we have terminated discussions with Wright Construction. Based on that, we are now bringing forward the company that was selected as the number 2 option through the RFQ process, RFQ 23-01, and that company is Miller Construction. And we just ask for your approval to allow city staff to move forward with negotiations to develop a GMP with Miller Construction Company.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Council, you have any questions for the city manager or the airport manager?
I would have some concerns about the possibility of change orders through this process. That's the one thing about Wright Construction that we enjoyed, was the fact that they didn't change orders. And that's not the consistent pattern for some of the other construction companies. So when we talk about a maximum price, we need to talk about a do not exceed maximum price. And we need to protect ourselves from a change order process, because we could get change ordered. This $1 million could run into 4 if we get change ordered on the project. And that's not an unusual thing for some of the larger, and Miller is one of the larger construction companies.
Yes, sir, and we'll follow that protocol. We followed a really rigid protocol with the Public Works compound with Wright Construction. They were obviously the construction firm there, but we'll follow that same protocol with this project, and change orders will, unless it's something to the extreme and we have to come back to you all, but it will not be a consistent basis on this.
Okay, all right. It's something that can raise the price dramatically. And Wright Construction has an industry reputation as not being change order based. And so that was one of the reasons that I was real happy they did the work that they did for us. So, okay.
Yes, sir. And just to clarify, just so that you all kind of have some rough numbers out there, this isn't something that we were relatively close with Wright Construction. The numbers that were thrown out to the city staff for this project was in the range of 2.2 to 2.5 million. So that is an increase of roughly $750,000 to $1 million over our existing budget for this project. So that is why the decision was made to terminate negotiations with them.
That should be a real trigger in looking at the number 2 bidder and the 1.5 and how it can be done for 1.5 when Wright comes in at 2.2 or 2.4. So we need to be very, it's just, you know, it's the kind of game that's being played by a lot of these large construction companies. So I just want to caution, that's all.
Yes, sir.
Well, no, I echo those concerns because I know in government, that's what happens. You get the lowest bidder, and by the time it's all done, you end up paying more than what your highest bidder was. So we need to be very particular about that and protect the city with that, so.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I can just clarify, so the 1.5 that's in here is our budget. That is not, the Miller Construction has not provided a price. Wright Construction, when they went through the RFQ, there were no pricing involved in the RFQ. It was strictly based on their qualifications. Right. So now it gives us an opportunity. We had the opportunity to negotiate a price with Wright. We will now negotiate a price with Miller, a GMP that's not to be exceeded. If that price comes back the same as Wright Construction, then this project, we'll have to have discussions on how we're going to move forward on this project because we only have $1.5 million to do this. It may be something where we realize that we either need to go for additional funding going forward in grant monies, or we need to reassign how we're going to do this project.
There you go.
I mean,
willing to hear.
If I can ask, I mean, is the possibility of only building 3 hangars, an option if we have to down the road, or?
Yeah, so one of the, and I don't want to overspeak Mr. Sabo, he's done such a great job with this, but we have had discussions. So this RFQ was for a design build project.
Correct.
We have had discussions on possibly doing the design and handling that portion in-house and then getting a firm to come in and build, or reducing down to 2 or 3 hangars so that we can get the project, get these things built, and we may have to go with 2 or 3 as opposed to 4, depending on how these negotiations go with, if you all approve for us to go forward with Miller Construction.
Okay. Well, obviously, I echo the sentiment up here, which is we have a GMP for a reason, and that's to keep our prices below the budget or at the budget. So obviously, we put that in your hands. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval. Oh, we need public.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Do we have anyone with their hand raised on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Now we'll entertain a motion, Mr. Dodd.
I move approval, sir.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
And Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, move on to item 12E. Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I do have Ms. Karen Miller here who can kind of give some information on this project, on this report that's presented to you all tonight. I will start it off by saying, anticipate what our anticipated schedule is going forward with this is tonight you all will see this project that was created in regards to our pavement plan by Pavement Management Group. Our plan internally is to come back to you all at the meeting on the 26th with our future year plan of which roads are going to be paved, and also hopefully have the contractors' amounts and their pricing in place so that at that meeting we can get approval and start proceeding down, getting some timelines for when they can do the projects. But I'll turn it over to Ms. Miller. I'll let her speak now on some specifics with this report that's presented to you all tonight.
Yeah, plus we need to catch up from a couple of years ago, right? We have roads that were behind.
Yes, sir. So our plan when it comes back on the 26th is we will handle the years of 22 and 23 this year, and then we'll obviously have 24 will be in next year's budget, but we will have fiscal years 22 and 23 to catch up on.
All right.
Hi, Council.
So to give everyone a little bit of a backstory, in 2018, we evaluated the streets. The PMG, this company went out and determined the pavement condition index average for the city as well as individual roads. At that time, they gave us a 6-year plan. We have only completed 3 years of that paving plan. The last 3 years, since we have been so far behind, we didn't want to get further behind, so we have prolonged it. Because drainage is such an important component of those roadways, council had agreed in the past to improve the swales and the drainage at each of these roadways so that it will prolong the life. We're paying the money to reconstruct or preserve. It only makes sense if you're going to make sure everything's done at the same time. So we haven't been moving forward yet with the next paving projects. We've just been taking our time to make sure it's done correctly. So that's been the delay. This report from Pavement Management Group has said that per industry standards, every 3 years, it's best to reevaluate the PCI. Even if you have a 5, 6, 8-year plan, you should always be evaluating that your plan is working, has improved the PCI for all the money that you've put into it. They have gone out, and you'll see on this report the date of 2022. We've been working with them since that time. There's also a web page that goes with it that was just updated just in July. So this report was just giving us the PCI. After that time, they've gone ahead and created a 7-year plan for us and have been giving us ideas of what we should do moving forward. And we've been figuring out the budget with a few different companies. We've been looking into contracting work for the swale regrading so that we can have city staff working on ditches and other components so we can do a lot of these projects all in 1 year. So we're looking to do 3 years in 1 year, essentially what would have been 3 different years of paving. But during that previous time, we did 11.85 miles in total, so that's about 8% of the city, and we saw the PCI index only decrease 3 points because of that. That's a lot less than it would have been if we had done nothing. PCI of a good road reduces about 2 points per year, but it degrades extremely quickly. So if it's at worst condition, it could decrease 10 points, just one road alone. So this is the average of the city, shows our program has been working, and we have plans that we'll bring to you at next council meeting for the 22, 23, and 24 years that we'll do this year. In that, we're looking to repave and a combination of preserve 8.22 miles. So an average of 2.75 miles a year.
Okay, good. So I see in this report, they're talking about 12-foot lanes, and my concern with that is we have some roads in the city, like major roadways like Barber and different things like that, that may be 12-foot, but all of our city streets in the neighborhoods are not 12-foot lanes. They're probably 17 or 18 foot wide, probably most of them. So my concern with seeing this 12 feet on here, 12 feet wide for the 248 lane miles, that we don't get charged for that. So you guys are addressing that, correct?
Mm-hmm. So yes, in this report, they have a general summary at the beginning, and they're saying this 12-foot width length, 12 feet wide for one of the lanes. That would be for our minor collectors, like Barber Street, Laconia, Wimbrow. Our other streets, sometimes the lane is 8, 9, 10 feet wide. In conjunction with this report, it is much more than this. It is spreadsheets of the exact square footage of every component that would be repaired. So that's why this report is really looking at what they found, and since then, we've been working on if we were to repave this section, if we were to preserve this section, what's the total cost of all of that? So any contractor doing that work is giving us an estimate according to the exact square footage. It's not according to just 12-foot lanes across the entire city. So I didn't want to give you the spreadsheet of every road contained in the city in your council packet, but if we need to in the future, we can.
Yeah, but I think we're going to be dealing with that for the next meeting anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And with your approval for this report, it's going to go on the city website, so residents can take a look at it as well. There is an interactive dashboard, so if any resident is concerned or is just curious, they can go in, look at a specific street. You can look at the videos of what it looked like in 2018, the videos of what it looked like in 2022. So it's a culmination of all the history.
All right, thank you. Any other questions,
Yeah,
Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that PMG thought that we should have an evaluation every 3 years. Is that something that's built into their budget for now?
That's an industry standard to evaluate your plan and your PCI every 3 years because it does drastically change. And that is why their 6-year plan, even in their creation of their past 6-year plan and their latest 7-year plan, we're very well aware in 3 or 4 years, because sometimes you can stretch that time frame, we're going to be reevaluating this again.
So
this is a continual
the cost of that
process.
is built into the existing
No,
budget? Or are we going to have to pay extra for that?
This budget that we're paying them for this report and this review.
Okay.
They have already given us the services for the design for the next 7 years,
Okay.
according to the current PCI. And then we reevaluate in 3 years, according to what we can do in the next 3 years. Are we getting the value for the work that we're putting in?
Okay, so we have a 7-year road plan. They're recommending a reevaluation after 3 years. What's the evaluation cost us? I mean, so is this going to cost us another huge chunk of money in 3 years to reevaluate what they're doing?
I think it was about, 32,000. I know even when we hired them for this, we had also talked to a few different companies. One of the reasons we went with PMG is they did the program in 2018. So they were reevaluating the exact same plan. So it's typically best to hire the same company because they're just more familiar with it, can get up to speed really quickly. There are many other companies. I have contact of many other groups. We could price this out in the future. There's companies that we can add cameras to our city vehicles, and we can do this on our own. But again, it is also a yearly, annual cost for equipment that would also be very similar.
Okay.
So we have options, and we're going to evaluate those costs when we get there, but it is something that will have to happen.
I'd personally like to see if we have a 7-year plan in the future, that if we have evaluations that should be done in the time frame of that evaluation should be built into the original budget, so we're not having to pay for something else for what they're doing, that it's all included. It might be easier to budget it out for Ken or whoever's Ken down the road.
Yeah,
That's doable.
You're not costing out the 7-year plan. You're only producing costs for the 1 year.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Well, this 7-year plan,
Will be the streets and the spreadsheet and so
yes.
forth.
So at this point in time, they've given us the report. They've also given us that 7-year plan, and we were looking to present that part to you at the next council meeting.
Okay, but we're not producing a budget for the 7 years. We're producing a budget for just the 22, 23 component, and then later. Is that
We were
correct?
focusing on the 22, 23, and 24 years,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
This upcoming budget year that we'd be focusing on.
Yeah, because they charged 38.9 here, and if I remember correctly, it was something like 29 something when they did it in 2018. So it's probably going to go to 45 when they do it the next time, you know, so.
All right, Mr. Benton?
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, we do plan out in future CIPs, and you'll see in the budget documents that have just gone out, that you will see that we allocate DST and local option gas tax money for road projects going forward. So when we look at this 7-year plan, we are in essence estimating what our costs are going to be in those future years. So we've already laid that out. Now, It could change, it's going to change, but we have a ballpark estimate of what it's going to cost us for road work and swell and driveway work over the course of our CIP, which is 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else?
I guess
first-
mine.
Yeah, go ahead,
if I
Bob.
could, is I don't envy your job at all, Ms. Miller, but my concern is, are we paving enough now? Because 5 years ago, we've gone from a 75 to a 72 average rating. That may not seem like a lot, but does that mean in 5 years we'll be from a 72 down to a 69? Because I think looking at these pictures, you go from a 75 probably more rapidly deteriorate at that point than if it was a very good road. So if we're looking at reviewing the roads again and want to keep it a little cheap, I don't think we need to look at the ones that were done now, but we need to look at those good and below, because they'll deteriorate at a much more rapid level, as well as depending on how heavily trafficked. And we don't want to wind up with a whole, and there are quite a few of the Bob Circle, although that's not a heavily traveled road, but if you live on that road, that's important to you, and the Dahl Avenue. That's kind of like, I know Schumann's getting done, but again, we don't want it to get to that point because it costs a whole lot more. So maybe we need to really look at upping each year what we're doing in paving so it doesn't, the pavement condition index doesn't go down to a 69. Because we're not keeping up.
I absolutely agree with you that once it's there, it goes, the pace at which it degrades is much faster. However, in the last 3 years, we've done 11.85 miles. That 3-point reduction, that's really quite good. We would expect a much higher reduction if we hadn't done anything. And my fear of repaving more roads at one time is you then have all of your roadways, if you go ahead and treat the whole city, they have the same lifespan, and you then are not splitting up that cycle, and then at the same time, they'll all be at that failure. So I do think it is good to split them up. How in this plan, the next 7 years, we haven't made them include all of the failed roads and all of the poor roads. So that's one thing they were not including before, because many times if something is already in poor condition, the difference between a resident sees a poor road and a failed road to them is very similar. So a lot of times municipalities leave that at that condition and allow it to go to the worst condition and then repave it entirely. We have asked that they include all the poor roads and all of the failed roads in that 7-year plan. So we are taking that into consideration.
And that's why I'm glad we're also looking at the swales, because a lot of these real deteriorating roads, that's because the water was sitting on top of them, especially the edges and everything, so.
Yeah. And this is one thing we want to make sure, the city's making sure that we're checking all of the roads that we've already helped with drainage. We're checking and giving flyers and reminding residents, if your road has just been treated or paved, it is really very essential that you clean up your swales, make sure your driveway culverts are clean. And if you're not seeing that, please let us know. We'll talk to code, but it compounds if it's not dealt with.
I appreciate all your hard work, Ms. Miller. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're obviously moving in the right direction here. We've had some years where we've been behind, so we're really moving forward now, and I really want to thank you guys for putting in the work, and I look forward to us getting our streets back in order, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, King. All right, where were we?
Public input.
Yes. Anybody from the public who would like to speak on this? Yes, sir, come forward.
Thank you. Just an observation. When Pavement Management Group puts together a plan, this 6-year or 7-year study, they get their cue from you all. So what that means is we tell them, your allowance is $600,000. Tell us how we can best spend that money, and that's what goes into the plan. Another way of saying is, what do we need to do in order to get a particular PCI? I don't know if Public Works selected that criteria for this study or not, but in the past, I mean, if the roads aren't getting done, it's because City Council has set a budget and Pavement Management Group has given us their best opinion as to what roads to do and when. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this? Is there anyone with their hand raised on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand.
All right, council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Dodd. Yeah, I agree 100% with what Mr. Baker said, is that I'm cheating because I have my proposed budget for next year in front of me, and I didn't pick it up, and so it was dropped off up here. And in our 24 budget, we've got somewhere between 1.2 and $2 million per year between street repair and street reconstruction. And if we're serious, and I think Mr. McPartland had a great idea, if we're serious about trying to get this done, it's our responsibility to put more money in there. It goes along with a lot of things. We may have to tell the residents that we need more money, and I think it's going to be important for us to talk about that when it comes down to it, because I understand they put money in here in following years, and I think that Mr. Minton was 100% correct, they put it in, but this is the engineering WAG, okay? I'm dropping in here some money because I'm trying to balance a budget. What we need to do is drop in here some money because we're trying to repair streets.
Right.
And if we feel like that we're not gonna repair them fast enough with the money that's in this budget, then it's gonna be up to us to decide where we pull and where we don't pull and where we move that money. So there may be items in here that the council decides within our next, we're gonna have a budget workshop. We're gonna spend some time on this. An opportunity for the council to decide where they wanna jive this money around a little bit. And I agree 100% that, they can only do the work that we give them the money to do.
Right.
It's that simple. And they can only do the work that we give them the staff to do. So it's actually, when it boils down to it, all you people out there, it's these 5 people up here that are responsible if it's getting done or not getting done. Because if it's not getting done, we should be saying something, and we should be putting the money and the people in there to get it done. So I think they've got a great plan. I was really happy to hear them talking about potentially bringing in outside help to do the swales, because that's been a big problem. We've done some street repair in the last 3 years and not done swale work. And it's absolutely ridiculous to put layers of asphalt down on a street and not fix the water, because that asphalt's gonna be destroyed much quicker. So I think it's important, I really was happy to hear that they're gonna that they're seriously gonna go about fixing the swales when they fix the streets. So.
Yep, absolutely.
And I don't know if we need approval on this or not.
We do.
And I move approval of this plan. I guess that's the way to say it.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion on it? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Nunn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, next thing, city council matters. Councilmember Dixon.
Attorney? You're gonna...
Oh, sorry, you're right.
You gotta go back to these attorneys.
I wanted to get this meeting over with, apparently, just skipping all of them. Let's just go. No, just kidding. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really don't have any announcements. I just wanted to say thank you for helping me settle in over the past couple of weeks to staff, and I look forward to working with you all. I attended a seminar last week, and I've got some legislative update materials I'll try to get to you guys in the next week or so. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Benton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to remind you all and let the public know that we are going to have a budget workshop on July 26th at 5 p.m. Prior to the city council meeting. So that'll be an opportunity for us to have those discussions and look at where we're anticipating to budget funds for. We currently have a plan, but obviously we solicit input from you all and the public with that, and where we're going to expend our funds for the budget for FY24. Thank you.
You have anything else, Mr. Benton? The mixer? Cement truck or whatever?
I'm sorry about that. I apologize. I apologize. So I did just want to make you all aware that I've discussed it with Ms. Miller, and there was a cement truck that was budgeted in this year's fiscal year 23 budget. We've discussed it. We've looked at the pros and the cons of it, and we have made a decision to not move forward with that purchase. So that money will be allocated into just our future year's budgets. Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was DST money we were using. So we were using discretionary sales tax funds for that. So that would just increase our discretionary sales tax monies that we have in future years as we continue to go forward. Right. So I apologize, Mayor, for not remembering to say that.
That's why I'm here.
Thank you for the reminder. I appreciate it.
Can we push that money towards our road plan?
Right.
I can honestly say that's probably where it's already been allocated. Thanks to Mr. Kilgore.
There you go.
And I do want to thank Mr. Kilgore and all of our finance department staff and all of our department heads for all of their hard work so far in preparing the budget document that's gone out so far. Obviously, we've got a long road and a lot of work still ahead of us, but they've done a great job, and it's been a quick turnaround for me and learning and trying to get into it, and they've done a great job with it. And Mr. Kilgore has been a great resource to help me through the process as well. So thank him.
All right, thank you so much, sir. City Clerk. What? Okay. Councilmember Dixon, you're up.
I'm up. I just want to reiterate this TC waterway cleanup. I think that's fantastic. I know My family loves to enjoy our waterways. We enjoyed some late afternoon boogie boarding yesterday, my son and I, and a manatee swam right by. That was so cool. We usually try to keep an extra like Publix bag with us for in case we find any trash along while we're out there. So I hope everyone will come out and help on the designated day, the 22nd. I know I have birthday plans. My daughter is going to be a teenager, so we won't be there that designated day, but we'll definitely participate on the virtual way, our own way. But I really hope that the community will support that because, I mean, this is really a special place. And, I mean, where can you be in Florida? Yesterday was July 11th. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We were the only people on Treasure Shores. I mean, where can you go in Florida and be the only people on the beach? This is cool. But we really do live in a special place, and I just love it here. That's it.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Dodd?
I was one of those old people that spent the week at the beach last week, so it was a very, very pleasant experience. Okay, I'd like to bring up the strategic planning process. I know we've talked about it. I'd like to see if there's a consensus to see if we can get the staff to do an RFQ or an RFP, RFQ for qualifications or P for proposal, whichever they feel more comfortable doing, to try to find a consultant to do that.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think that we are high enough on the priority list for the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to possibly get them to do that work. So, and I know that our direction to the city manager or interim city manager first, now the interim, was to try to work with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to provide those services. And I just don't know that we're going to be high enough on their list to get that work done in any manner that's desired. I mean, my personal preference is we get this thing done this summer if we can. It's an important thing that we need to do to get the city flowing forward. So I'd like to see if there's a consensus to change that direction.
Yeah, have you had any conversations with anyone?
I've had conversations with Tom Lanahan, and he said that he talked to Paul, the prior city manager, about it, but they have a lot of stuff on their plate. And it's a small project that it may be difficult for them to work through the process very quickly. And then I understand from the county commission meeting this week that they're planning on facilitating the meetings that the county commission is going to have with the city elected officials, which means that, you know, they're looking at priorities different than our strategic plan. So my preference is that we go a different direction just to get it done.
Maybe if we could wait until after the League of Cities conference, because there could be a vendor there that wants to be a shining star that we don't know about. I mean, we could do one, but we might, you know, I want it done. I agree with you.
And the one thing about the vendors at the league, we could talk to them, but, you know, you still have to get for us to purchase something like that, we still have to get a documented proposal, and we still have to go through the purchasing process. So the quickest way to do that is for the city staff to put together an RFQ and just find out what firms out there are interested in something of that size and have the qualifications to do it. There might be one of the firms on our existing list of consulting companies that have the qualifications to do it. So
Right.
Have we reached out to the Florida League of Cities to see if they
don't? No. The Florida League of Cities will come in and talk to us about league activities, about league things, but
if they have any companies that other places have dealt with that may be someone that
maybe, you know, I can make that contact once we decide what direction we want to take and see if there's something that's in there. But just to go to them and ask for a consultant that does strategic planning, I don't know that they're going to be in the process of providing that.
Sure.
So we just have to decide whether we want to change the direction to the city manager or not, to our assistant to our interim city manager or not.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Do we have money budgeted for strategic planning process?
We have included monies in FY '24 budget to cover our anticipated costs for it, yes. FY '23 we do not, but we can, obviously it's your direction. To prepare this document, it's going to take us a few weeks, so we're going to probably start running into close to that FY '24 before any monies have to be expended anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if it turns out that we can get something done during this physical year, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'd be more than happy to do a budget exception for that, because it's important that we move forward with this.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody
Okay.
else? Sounds like you have a consensus, Mr. Dodd.
Thank you.
All right, is that it for you, sir?
I just, I want to make sure that everybody understands this street plan is really neat, and at some point in time, we're going to have available on the internet. And I think that spreadsheet's going to be available a lot quicker than I thought it was. For citizens, people are going to be able to go in and look at their street and where it fits in the plan. And one of the biggest complaints that I receive from people is, you haven't fixed my street, why not?
Same.
And you're going to be
Yes.
able to actually go in and see your street and see what condition it's in and see where it fits in the plan. So we might make sure that we make that website as widely available as possible, so people know that they can do that. Maybe even put together a little instruction sheet on our webpage that says, here's how you read the spreadsheet or something. Because I remember we were given the whole spreadsheet in 2018, and I wear glasses because I tried to read it. It was an extremely small, it was this big, and the print was so small you couldn't even blow it up without a magnifying glass. So it's a big spreadsheet, and so I think it's important people understand they're going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. All right, Mr. McPartland.
All right, where do I begin? I don't know. But first, I want to, congratulate the city attorney. We made it through the first meeting almost. I told you it was going to be a piece of cake, and lo and behold, it kind of was. First is I want to, thank the city and the law enforcement, the volunteers for the police department, as well as the city workers that were down there on the 4th of July. I hopped down during the afternoon. It was hot, just hot out there. And I heard that, Ron did a very good job at the beginning of the parade, so I didn't hear about any problems that happened during. It seemed like every time I go down there, I always see Bub. Bub is always working one way or another. And then when I went down the evening for fireworks, Brian himself was helping with the light situation, trying to figure something out with Bub. So, Brian, you are everything and more that I expected when we decided to make you the interim city manager. You're always, available, and you're willing to get your hands dirty, no problem whatsoever. But the staff did fantastic. The fireworks were okay. I thought they were a little short, 15 minutes, but they did, have continuous. I love the booms. And just to let people know that Steve Marcinic, a longtime Sebastian police officer, he recently retired as of June 30th, and he gave this city well over 25 years of fantastic service. He was when you look at community policing, Steve Marcinic's picture should be there. And I know he mentored a lot of the officers that are still here, so his mark will be left for quite a while. All right, I was down, it seems like I've been in meetings every day, all day long since Monday, and I caught the commission meeting. I was down there. There's one thing to watch the meeting on TV. It's another when you're actually there, because you never know who you're going to run into and who you're going to meet. So the brand new clerk of the court, Ryan Butler, I started asking him, when is the clerk's office going to reopen up here in Sebastian? He said, funny you asked, Bob. August 7th is their plan to restaff that office. And of course, you never understand how much the clerk of the court actually does. You figure they just collect money from criminals, but they do a lot more. They do the passports, marriage licenses, and I can't remember everything else. The other gentleman, and I think he's going to try and be in touch with you, Brian, as far as trying to get on an agenda, just to kind of give an idea. And I did catch also Jordan Abbey was down there. He works for Carol Jean Jordan in the tax collector's office, and he gave a presentation on PACE, which is the Property Assessed Clean Energy, and how they are doing like almost predatory type practices. And I don't know if you remember, Mr. Dodd, I remember PACE was being pushed for people to kind of update their homes, and but the interest rates were creeping up, and now they kind of want the tax collector to be putting the lien on. So I believe he's scheduled to come up the beginning of August to do a presentation. But I remember when they were pushing PACE. I remember they came here, that they came to the Treasure Coast Council of Local Governments and also the Treasure Coast Regional League of Cities. So it's funny how things have changed over the time. I did agree to, they did discuss at their meeting about having a joint meeting. I thought they meant everybody all together. They said, no, we could only handle one city at a time. So I made the recommendation of breakfast. If it's lunch, whatever, I'm perfectly fine. However we can all, meet would be the best thing. I did attend, also they discussed at their regular meeting, their trash contract was going out more than 2 years ahead of time. And they plan on making a decision 14 months out, so whoever does get picked, that they're doing that. Also, one of the things was they had the consumer price index. All of the waste companies came before them to get increases, and the recyclable went up 3.84%. So that's something, I don't know how that'll work out on the tax bill at the end of the year or whatever. And let me see, because they also mentioned during their trash item that 30% of the county residents did not subscribe for pickup. So their decision to go universal or whatever is going to be very interesting, to say the least. And let me see that I covered everything. I had a lot of stuff written down. And then the only other thing is the Centennial Committee, about an update. I know I had spoken to you, Brian, about the tree, planting 100 trees for the Centennial, and I mentioned Doc Baker, maybe possibly getting with him. Have any luck?
Yes, so they'll provide the smaller juvenile trees that we can get from them. However, we have looked into trying to get something a little bit more grown, a couple years old. So we'll have to work on that with them and see if that's possible. The smaller trees we can get for free, but then we've got to develop a plan of where exactly we're going to put all 100 trees within the city. But that is something we've had discussions with.
Okay, that'd be great. And then I was there till lunchtime today, their budget meeting. It's interesting to watch the budget cycles, and then I believe that I heard that over 70% of the county's budget is state mandated that they have to fund, which was kind of crazy. The one thing they did have for us is the community redevelopment area. They voted, well, they didn't vote, but this is the proposed budget, to increase ours. I guess property values went up 13.8%. I keep waiting for them to stay even or go the other way, but they went up 13.8%, they're estimating at this time, and they're increasing our CRA 15.9%, so we'll go from $240,000 to over $278,000. But again, I would encourage everybody to kind of look at the budget that they're doing, and then in relation, because we're going into our cycle, and it's just, preparation is key. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Bob. I also had a meeting earlier today with Carol Jean Jordan, who was talking about those very same things about the PACE program and the predatory lending that's happening, and so there's some stuff out there about that. Thank you for presenting that, Bob, but I'm having an issue right now, so I'm done.
Gotcha.
Vice Mayor, no?
All right, I would like to say thank you to everybody at the city, our employees, that includes the police department and all other employees that work so hard for our 4th of July parade. And Mr. City Manager, you always make us look good. You've been out at every parade for the past, that I can remember, for the past 3 years you've been there. So it's nice to see you still out there working and getting things done. Was a wonderful parade and wonderful festival and great fireworks, and thank you for everybody for that. I just want to say thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah, I can finish now a little bit, maybe. But yeah, I was there, my wife and I was there all day for the parade and the celebration afterwards, and it was nice to see that that our staff, the job that they were doing, and to see Brian there all evening. So it was definitely great to see that, and for the people to see that as well. So thank you and your staff for everything that they did to keep that, to make it as beautiful as it was. So thank you so much for that. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.